Broadcasting from Park Avenue West, you're watching WMFD Television, Channel 68.1, Mansfield.
This program discusses sensitive mental health issues, including suicide. Viewer discretion is advised.
Maybe an hour after we got the message that we lost Danny, Danny's sister said to us, we were all crying, and she says, "What do we do? What do we tell people?" And I'm like, "Baby, we got to tell them the truth. This is nothing that can be hidden, because otherwise the suicide will win."
We're not mental health professionals. It's just something that happened to our family. We direct people other places. And most important of all, I think, don't quit. Keep fighting. Keep living. Things will get better.
Good evening and welcome to Sparking the Conversation. I'm Jeff Heck. This is my wife, Donna, and we're part of 33 Forever. We're pleased and excited to be able to bring you weekly half-hour messages, stories, and resources surrounding mental health topics and challenges. Now, our show's purpose and hope is to provide you both information and inspiration, making conversations about mental health the norm.
Tonight we're going to continue with our discussion about COVID and mental health. And we are so pleased to have a respiratory therapist at University Hospital's Samaritan's Medical Center in Ashland, Kelsie Lee. Kelsie is not only on the front line every single day saving lives, but she's also a wife and a mother and a friend of Danny's. So welcome, Kelsie. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
It's a serious, serious time right now. You haven't had a break in this pandemic.
Yeah.
So you're a respiratory therapist. You have been in that role since the pandemic began.
Yeah.
Your life has changed a lot in the last almost 2 years, right?
Yes.
Give us a little bit of a breakdown. Tell us about the beginning. Tell us about kind of how things were.
So I think when it first started, everybody was really afraid. They were scared. It was not in Ohio yet, and we were just preparing. The whole hospital came up with a surge plan of what floors we could open if we needed more rooms for patients. We came up with how we were going to be doing overtime. Me and a bunch of my coworkers packed bags, kept them in our car, kept them in our lockers of clothes just in case we had to stay. And then once it came around, and we weren't really seeing a lot of it because it was just really entering. And at first the hospitals were dead. Like there was nobody in the ER, nobody was coming in, everybody was afraid. And then it stopped. Everybody stopped being afraid after like the first real big hit, and then it just blew up. And we've been really busy the past while.
So you don't really have any breaks at all during the day, because although the nurses take care of their 6, 8 people, whatever, you respiratory therapists have the entire hospital.
Yes, yeah, we have the entire hospital from the ER to the floors, ICU, all the way up to OB. We go up for anything with babies, C-sections, we have to be present, so anything with that too.
So COVID has changed the hospital industry, the medical community, your particular profession, especially because you guys literally are the difference so many times now between somebody surviving and somebody not surviving COVID, correct? How's that been?
Exhausting, mentally and physically exhausting.
I'm sure.
I think the hardest thing, the thing that affects your mental health the most is a patient comes in for trouble breathing, and you start with them in the ER, and you just put them on some oxygen, you give them breathing treatments, everything's fine. You admit them to the floors, and then they start to deteriorate. They go to the ICU, and you're with them all the time. I mean, a respiratory therapist is there with you from the start by just throwing some oxygen on, helping with your trouble breathing, all the way till the end if you need intubated and placed on a ventilator. And then if you're not making it on the ventilator, we're the ones that pull the tube. If the family decides that it's time, it's been long enough, we're the ones that terminally extubate. And throughout that whole time, weeks, a month, however long it takes, you build a relationship with these patients, and you learn about them. And then now that our visitor policy is opened up a little bit, you meet their family and their daughters and sons and or their spouses, and you learn about what they did for a living, and you pray with them for a long time, and you just talk about their stories. Sometimes if you have to if you have to ignore 30 minutes of your work, to pray with them, that's what you do. But then, I think the hardest part is you go in and you have to intubate them. It's the last time you say we're at the head of the bed and we're like this. We're going to put you to sleep, put a tube down your throat, and then when it's time, if they don't make it, you are there with the family and you pull the tube. You're taking their last breath, and then you have to pretend like everything's okay in the end, and you have to walk out of the patient's room, and you're there with the family, you're crying with the family, and then you walk out, and you have to go to your next patient with a smile on your face and act like nothing ever happened.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's mentally exhausting, because you go home thinking about it, crying about it. You dream about it. You go into the next day thinking about it, all to deal with another patient in the same exact boat.
Oh, you poor I cannot imagine that.
But it's not exaggerating when they've called you guys in your roles heroes, because during this part of the process, you are truly significant pieces of hope for these people, these families, all the way through. And I just think that's something we can't emphasize enough. And I know, the medical community loves the, not all heroes wear capes and all that. And it's true, but talk about the front line, the respiratory therapy folks. You guys are really there.
Yeah.
We've got to take a real quick break. We're going to take our first break. We're going to come back with Kelsie Lee in just a minute, talking about COVID and respiratory therapy and what it's been like here for the last almost 2 years, right here on Sparking the Conversation. We'll be back in a minute.
All right, Sunday's way better. Oh, no, you can't have this. I'm sorry.
Enjoy an order of large fries for free with a purchase of $1 or more, only on the app.
If you've been injured, whether personal injury, medical malpractice, or wrongful death, you are not alone.
And you definitely don't have to fight alone. While you focus on recovery, let the HEC law offices focus on your case.
With over 45 years of combined legal experience, we understand your situation and the entire overwhelming legal process.
With an injury you're already handling too much, let our team be your advocate.
I'm Jeff Heck.
And I'm Jeff Stifler.
We're Mansfield's Injury Lawyers. Call us today or visit us at hecklawoffices.com.
Hi, I'm Joe Trollian, the Executive Director for the Richland County Mental Health and Recovery Services Board. Addiction to drugs and alcohol create a personal struggle as well as impact those around you. You are not alone. We have many professionals and organizations who care. Reach out for help today. Know it before you need it. Visit know it, the letter B, the number 4, the letter U, needit.com.
Brought to you by the Richland County Mental Health and Recovery Services Board, growing and preserving a legacy of hope and success within our community.
Need insurance? SelectQuote found Jacob, 40, a $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. And SelectQuote found his wife Wendy, a $500,000 policy for only $17 a month.
Our secret? At SelectQuote, we aggressively comparison shop up to 10 highly rated companies to find you the company with the best rates. Why pay more? Give your family the security they need at a price you can afford. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Country music has never sounded so good.
I love your music.
Music just makes me happy.
Just my music.
There's a new cowboy in town. 97.3 The Spur.
This program discusses sensitive mental health issues, including suicide. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome back to Sparking the Conversation. We're here tonight with Kelsie Lee, who is a respiratory therapist at University Hospital, Ashland, Samaritan. And Kelsie, you were sharing with us your experience in the last couple of years dealing with the pandemic, and as a respiratory therapist, what that you've experienced and what your patients, the difficulty that's been, and how that's really changed your world, obviously, and a lot of people's world. And I know, you are so sympathetic and empathetic to all the people that have been lost and the people who've suffered. But there's something to what the medical professionals, especially the respiratory folks, based on the conversation we just had, have to be feeling too. So talk about that, can you?
Yeah, so I think I can speak for myself and my coworkers and everybody in all hospitals right now that it's upsetting going through it every day, and you cry and you dream about it and you want to talk to your family about it, and there's only specific things that you're allowed to tell them. And talking to my coworkers, sometimes we are able to sit down while we're charting and we can sit and talk to each other about what we're feeling. And there was a time where I had no idea that my coworkers were going through it like I was until I opened up, and then they were like, no, seriously, me too. Like, I'm having nightmares, I cannot sleep, I cannot eat, I'm causing some toxicity with my family and stuff like that. And it literally affects everything. It affects you and your family and what you do and how you do it and just your everyday life. And
well, you have that weighing on you. And then you have what all of us have with COVID, with worrying about your family. Are you going to bring it home to your kids? Are you handling it the right way? And the fears of just society in general. What ways did you do? What things did you do to cope for the hardest part for you?
Definitely venting to my friends. Having my best friend in respiratory at the same hospital as me is, for me personally, a huge plus. Our husbands get so angry at us because we talk to each other for hours on the phone. But venting to your friends, journaling, I started writing things down, writing my thoughts and feelings down, because you can't bring that stuff home. And when you do, it's hard for everybody, your kids, your husband. And then seeking help. I know a lot of people that actually started therapy, and they said that has helped them tremendously. Me personally, I was having such bad anxiety that I got put on Lexapro, and I'm not on that anymore, but for a good year I was on that, and it helped me a lot. And I weaned myself off of it with the help of my doctor and started doing things to help my anxiety and coping with it. And since then, it's really helped a lot. But yeah, just talking about it is the number one thing, getting it off of your chest.
I think it's really smart of you. What you did is because we know that talk therapy matters, and you're not getting therapy, but you're doing therapy with your friends, right? Your coworkers who are going through the exact same thing as you. You recognize something's not right here. I need a little help, and the doctor gave you the situational boost that you needed, and it helped you get through a tough time. I know when we were preparing for the show, you talked about how you worked so many hours and so long and so many shifts with no break that it got difficult, and finally you got that break, and you felt like that rejuvenated you a lot.
Yeah. I was able to take a week off and went on a little vacation with my family, and that was the thing that helped me the most, I think, was just able to get away. And I think depending on where you work and who your boss is, and my boss personally is huge with family time, and family is most important. And if they can understand that, and your coworkers are able to cover for you, even if it's just a shift, take the break and get rest, get some sleep, and then come back the next day.
Well, if your mental health isn't taken care of, you're not able to take care of the physical health of your patients.
Yeah, you're going to take care of people when they are at their absolute worst, and sometimes you're going through things and you're not at your absolute best to care for them, but you have to be. You have to pretend sometimes.
So you talked about your family, your husband, and I know you have a little boy.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what was it like, especially early on in the pandemic when you didn't know what you were going to be facing. You talked about having kind of a go bag in your car.
Yeah.
You weren't sure you were even going to be able to go home, or you weren't even sure if you could go home because maybe you might be carrying something.
Yeah, at the very beginning, it was constantly making sure you were undressed before you even came in your house. And then you started thinking about, where am I going to stay if it gets that bad? I don't want to get sick and then bring it home to my son.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure nurses and doctors and the entire medical field had that scare and that fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Well, you have really truly opened up a lot of thought for us and made other therapists, I think, realize that they're not alone.
Yeah.
So we're going to come back and talk a little bit more with you about respiratory therapy and the hope that you can give us. And so we'll be back on Sparking the Conversation shortly.
Catalyst Life Services, a comprehensive behavioral health organization, has been serving the community for 70 years. Our wide array of wraparound services and our ability to treat the whole person is what sets us apart. It's everything you need in one place: mental health, crisis, detox and addiction services, case management, and peer recovery support. We even offer vocational programming to get you back to work. Catalyst Life Services. Call today and get the help you need.
I wish I could go back in time.
But if love could have saved you, you would have lived forever.
If he only knew how many lives he had touched and how deeply his loss would be felt.
If only he had accepted help.
Maybe he would have stayed.
I am so glad someone reminded me that I'm worth it and will always be worth it.
I'm glad that I have people now that support what I want to do in my dream of helping other people.
So, change of plans. We'll be spending the holidays at your place.
Oh, yay! Everyone remember what you're supposed to grab?
We're Santa's little helpers. Some might call us elves, but Santa's little helpers is what we call ourselves. We're Santa's little helpers, and if you want to know, there's nowhere else on earth that we would rather go.
Need last-minute gifts? We've got you covered. Save big money at Menards.
If your long-term disability claim was denied, listen closely. You may be able to recover money. Unum is one of the largest disability insurance carriers, and companies you know like Colonial Life, New York Life, and National Life Group are all part of the Unum family. Unum was fined millions for wrongly denying claims. You may be owed compensation. Let us help you through the appeal process.
Call 800-841-9215. That's 800-841-9215. I am a paid non-attorney spokesperson.
Welcome back to Sparking the Conversation. We're here having a talk with our respiratory therapist, Kelsie Lee. And Kelsie, a question I have, when people are diagnosed with COVID and they stress about their breathing issues, how do you know when is a time to be concerned with it and maybe go to a hospital or call a doctor?
So technically, any shortness of breath or chest pain, you want to come to the ER. But if you're feeling like you just don't know what to do, it's really smart to buy a pulse ox. It's $20, $25 at CVS, any store like that. And you can check your oxygen level. And that's where you're going to want to come into the ER, is if your oxygen level is under 90%, you're going to want to go ahead and get some breathing treatment, see if that helps, get some oxygen to get sent home with, or if it's bad enough, you can get admitted.
I mean, I think that's really wise to have some fine line to go by, because I know when we had COVID, we immediately worried about, we just got diagnosed. How bad is this going to get? And do we start to worry about it? And I'm sure people get very anxious about it.
Yeah, you definitely start getting some really bad anxiety. And a lot of it's, you're so anxious because you're so afraid what COVID's going to do to you, because it affects everybody so differently. But if you get a pulse ox at home and check your oxygen level, if it hits under 90, go ahead and come in, and that's my advice.
That is incredible professional advice.
So speaking of machines, when we were preparing for the show and we talked to you, you told us a story or some stories about how things were for you. You had been trained and your education was on specific kinds of machines. You had some specific challenges because COVID really stressed the resources of the hospital as far as just the equipment that you were using.
Yeah, so we had to rent a couple of devices from other facilities, and then we had to pull some dinosaur machines out of storage, and I've never even seen a machine like it in my life. I didn't even know how to turn it on. So there was definitely a lot of things that you had to learn. You had to relearn how to use certain machines, which for us, you get the basics. You know what your settings need to be. You just have to figure out how to run the actual machine. But learning new devices and old devices, and then making sure that you have enough. There are times where a patient needs, it's called an Airvo. It's a high-flow oxygen device and a BiPAP. So you do the Airvo during the day, BiPAP at night. And so that patient themselves just have 2 machines in use. So with the not having a lot of machines, we had to start renting them from other facilities, and then that makes you worried. It's like, am I going to have enough machines for the next person that comes into the ER that's going to need one? Mm-hmm. So we've ran into that a couple times, but we've managed. We've been able to have enough for everybody.
And that's got to put, again, more worry, more stress, more learning on the staff.
Learning on the spot, learning on the job.
Literally learning on the fly, right?
Yeah, definitely. Having to go through YouTube videos really quick on your phone to try to, wait, what does this alarm mean? It's a lot of, your mental capacity can only handle so much, but you just keep learning more.
Right.
Well, we appreciate what you do and how you save lives every day, and it gives me a new respect for not only the respiratory therapist, but everybody who puts their personal life on hold to go take care of people. Mm-hmm. And with that, what would you tell us is the best therapy per se for you during all the stressful times, and or what you've learned through everything that you've gone through?
The best therapy, I would say, to get it off your chest, talk about it, always, because more so than not, the other person that you're talking to is probably feeling the same exact way. And then what I've learned through all of it, I would say, definitely spending time with your family and treasuring that time, and putting your phone down, getting off of the TV, and being present with your family and in those conversations, and just being grateful for the time that you have with your family, because you're around so much death. And when you think about what you need, what's the most important, and it's that your family is with you and that they're healthy.
Yeah, and I think especially in this time, because you worry about the older people in your life for sure. You worry about your own generation probably. You worry about your kids.
Yeah.
And you just don't. Everybody's journey in COVID, and I think you've probably seen this more than anybody else. Yeah. It's been totally different. Everybody has a different way to react when they get it.
Yes. Yeah. There's a couple of times where I'm like, "Ooh, I was really in a COVID patient's room a lot tonight. I shouldn't go see my grandma for the next few days." And that was depressing too, because being away from her isn't fun. But yeah, I would definitely say treasure the time with your family when you have it, because you never know what tomorrow's going to bring.
That's very, very true.
It's great advice, great wise words always.
For all of us in every walk of life.
Every aspect of life.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your story with us tonight, Kelsie. We're going to keep you around for our memory moment, but we're going to come back with the memory moment here in just a minute here on WMFD, Sparking the Conversation.
We are more than a counseling center.
More than just a medication or therapy session.
What do I like the most? It's gotta be the team.
Providing the highest standard of care. That's just what we do.
And equipping patients with coping skills to be successful. That's so important.
It's simple. We are just hopeful. We are hopeful for our patients.
We are hopeful that we can help them find their way to a better balanced and more resilient self.
We are Hope 419.
Visit us today at hope419.com.
Danloo Exchange presents Ring in the Square New Year's Eve celebration, Friday, December 31st. Enjoy 2 all-you-can-eat dinner buffets with a champagne toast, music, cash bars, party favors, and fireworks at midnight for only $100 per person. At 11:30, WMFD TV hosts a live ball drop on the square. Celebrate a new year filled with love, happiness, and cheer. Call DLX at 419-522-7699 for reservations today.
Attention Zantac users. The FDA requested manufacturers to pull Zantac and products containing ranitidine off the market, noting exposure to unacceptable levels of a cancer-causing agent. If you or a loved one was diagnosed with cancer after regular use of Zantac or ranitidine products, you might be entitled to financial compensation. If you have colon, kidney, or any of these cancers, time is critical. Call now for a free consultation. If you don't win, you pay nothing.
Call 800-555-1212.
Welcome back to Sparking the Conversation. This is the part of our show that we call the Memory Moment. And we have a really special one tonight.
We do. Yeah. We've been spending the evening and the show talking with Kelsie, and Kelsie knew Danny as she was growing up, and she told us a tremendous story that we just have to have her share.
Yeah, so Danny was good friends with my sister Laura, and we as kids always rode horses together all of the time, went trail riding. And I remember one specific time when we were trail riding out in the woods and there's nobody else around, just us, and she sang at the top of her lungs a Dixie Chicks song.
While you're riding.
And while we were riding horses, yep. And the whole entire time she just sang it and she belted it, and it was so good. And I remembered her forever. She was my favorite friend of Laura's all of the time. I was obsessed with her. I just remember thinking, she's so beautiful, and her voice was so good, and I was young at the time, super young.
Yeah,
so.
well, because she was, I think, 21. We looked at the year, so and it was a summer where she had worked again with Laura, and that's Laura's dad, and Kelsie's dad is on there as well.
Yep, and there's Danny and Laura on the horses, and Danny loved horses.
I think that was her happiest place, her happy place.
I think it really was too.
Horses are great therapy for people.
Yeah, they are.
In fact, I know your sister's got involved in an equestrian program here in the area that helps vets, right?
Yes, that's incredible.
With the horses.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, Colleen Runyon runs that.
777.
Heaven on Earth, right? 777
Ranch.
Yeah, great thing. So, Kelsie, thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
That was actually really spontaneous because we didn't really. We had a whole nother memory moment planned for tonight, and then when you told the story, we're like, "Oh, that's a memory moment. That's awesome."
Those are the
you
special
just have to
ones.
share.
Absolutely,
Cool.
because she brought so much joy to so many people, and we just always try to focus on that.
Yeah.
Well, and she could belt it out at the top of her lungs, and she's funny. She was very self-conscious. She didn't think she was a good singer, but she had a really amazing voice.
She did.
Yes.
She was good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that with us. Thank you for being on the show. We appreciate it. We had a wonderful time, and we hope everybody has a wonderful holiday week, and we will see you next week on Sparking the Conversation.